This scared the shit out of me, this one. Sometimes it's just better to not know.
It has been so grand and so epic. So many big scenes with so many people, and we've got a lot of amazing, real.
We wanted to have secret panels for
Looking at what we might want to touch. There's something really tangible about the way she designs. But inside these boxes, there are tons and tons of incredible items.
This is the amount of detail in the show. The original Fair Play Measures, and it becomes the Azalea.
Security equipment for the penthouse in the light.
It's the only chess set. And is this the one that I threw across the room?
Yeah, and it's surprisingly didn't break. So this is just a box of voodoo dolls. This scared the shit out of me, this one. Sometimes it's just better to not know.
It has been so grand and so epic. So many big scenes with so many people, and we've got a lot of amazing, real period clothing that is coming from all over. But because our leads are vampires, they are rough on their clothes. So many dresses made, so many suits made, all of their shoes. We make a lot. We really kind of turned up the color for Louis. And when you meet him in this, and he pops out in this golden, it's just beautiful.
I'd get out of the car and people would be like, damn, ooh, look at this suit. Like people were like going crazy over my suits.
The costume helps the actor in so many ways. So one of the things that was a real challenge was making sure that every single detail was just right. And I spent months researching so that you really feel you're in that time, and then your characters can be who they need to be on top of it.
Lestat really is a man from the 1700s. So in terms of the costume, when we first meet him, he's still wearing elements of that.
This was a coat that we designed for him to land in, and a lot of texture and a lot of wear there, and a little bit of elegance in that lining. You know, when you get a pop of that, it's like, oh.
Carol has done an extraordinary job of really keeping elements of bondage in his costume that I think are really fun to walk around in.
The red cloak that I wear was definitely like, I remember walking outside and everyone was like, holy cow. And I was like, I know, right? It's so great.
When people see this show, they're going to really flip out and fall in love with every aspect of it, and the way it looks and the way it sounds. The music alone is amazing, and the acting and the costumes and the hair and the makeup and the production design. Everything about it feels authentic, and you buy the universe 100%.
As if I had walked my entire life as a dead man.
I know that I've always loved the vampires as characters, as creatures who scared me from, remember at an early age reading Bram Stoker. There's something so sort of deliciously scary about them.
I think people really love just vampires and vampire stories because it shows us the dark nature of ourselves.
It's like this funhouse mirror reflection on our own mortal lives and things that we all think about.
Everyone feels like they sort of know the vampire mythology, but there's a lot of variation.
We look at Nosferatu, we look at Bela Lugosi's Dracula, Frank Langella's Dracula, so many different versions of vampire. But I think what's different about Anne Rice than a lot of other vampire things is the humanity of it all.
In terms of the look of our vampires, we made decisions earlier on which are right out of the Anne Rice mythology, that they are not monstrous, they're not terrifying to look at. Their look is a sort of a heightened human beauty.
I don't want to make them pale. I don't want to make them veiny. I don't want to give them a crazy forehead, because how would they integrate into the real world? Everybody would be running away from them, but instead we went the other way and made him look perfect in every way.
Well, the eyes are described, very beautifully in the novels, and we've been very true to the descriptions that we were given.
Each of our vampires has special contact lenses that they wear, and they each have their own color. Louis, he has these bright green eyes. Lestat, his eyes are a beautiful pale gray. And Claudia has these amber orange eyes that are like pop.
When I looked in the mirror and saw my lenses, I can creep people out. Like, I have that power.
And they have different contact lenses for different moods and different levels of arousal and of ferocity.
When they attack, their pupils dilate really big. So we have separate contacts for that.
People look at you funny and you're like, why are people looking at me like this? And you forget that you haven't blinked for 4 minutes because there's no air going into your eyes.
Well, one of the things we're doing differently in the show is that the vampires don't always have their fangs. And it depends on their mood. So we have like what we call resting fangs. We have attack fangs. We have a lot of different fangs. We made hundreds and hundreds of teeth for these guys.
There's 3 different lengths, and there are slip-on caps that click in.
So obviously when they're about to eat, that's when their fangs appear, and that will be a combination of us and digital effects.
Claudia has 4 fangs, and the standard is 2. Our tongues are not used to wearing fangs, so that was a little bit awkward.
It took a while to practice learning how to speak with a full set of dentures in.
Claudia, Lestat, and Louis, we have a set of full bridges for attack mode.
Were your parents this hour? No! Don't!
The fingernails have a big part of the Anne Rice lore, and the way they're described. There's a sheen to them. They're extended. They're slightly pointed. They're also useful as weapons, but they're beautiful.
We didn't want claws on them. We wanted them very slight, but yet they looked like they were razor sharp.
The nails are really fun, especially for Claudia. One of the scenes is admiring her nails. So even the way Claudia kills, I always like to remember the nails. Like, these are my nails. I'm going to kill with these.
You're wondering if your nails will be like that forever. And the answer is yes.
I'll tell you, the biggest struggle is keeping the nails on. First brought in somebody to do all their nails like once a week, but then nails would fall off and then we'd have to glue them on set.
Jacob, he has these press-on nails, whereas Sam, he's agreed to get acrylics made. We have a nail person, a specialist, come in and do acrylic nails on him and also on Bailey.
The only reason I don't wear the acrylic nails is because I have a young daughter and I have to change her nappy and give her cuddles, and I don't.
We put them through a lot, Having sticky blood on you is a horrible thing. I mean, imagine if you just covered yourself in honey all day long. So we had gallons and gallons and gallons of vampire blood, dressing blood, mouth blood, gel blood, the whole thing. And then we had all the human blood, which we spilled all over the place. Tons and tons of blood. And then we also had these big giant puddles of blood that were synthetic, just like mats, like a doormat, but they're in the shape of a giant puddle. And we had all different sizes.
Right down here is our blood kit that we carry to set. And we have different kinds of blood, like gel blood, which is just kind of a solid blood. Some low light blood, so it's like, because we're in the dark a lot. This is pumping blood, so I usually hook up a tube and
Yeah, there's a lot of blood in the show. They're actually cocktailing something right now that we're going to use in episode 7, and we're actually going to be drinking it, and we're taste testing it to make sure we like it. And there's like hibiscus in it, but it looks like blood.
The drinkable blood is very sugary, so you get this kind of like high from it, which probably not as intense a high as vampires get from drinking real blood, but there's something.
We live off the blood of the living.
Out the back, I have a fire extinguisher loaded with blood, so I hook that up to my hoses. That's probably 2 gallons worth of blood right there.
And then we'd go crazy and just like Kill Bill it all over the place. We wanted it to be like boom. And one of the things we had to be concerned about is that we were shooting in locations that are like 150 years old in New Orleans. There's a sequence in episode 1, we just annihilate a bunch of people in there. And we're shooting in this church, and I'm like, okay, we've got to be really, really careful. The second the blood hit the floor, we finished shooting it, we cleaned it right up.
It's no easy feat acting with fake blood in your mouth and fake teeth that you can't chomp down on, and with contact lenses where you can barely see, and then have to deliver a beautiful, heartfelt performance.
This is not a life! That's because you took my life!
The cast never complained about it, and they always took it on beautifully because they all saw special, and makes the show that much more exciting to watch.
The beauty of Anne Rice's characters is that they aren't creatures. They are us. They feel the same way we do, and they don't quite know where they belong in the world. I think that a lot of alienated people can identify with that.
She's really empathetic and says it's okay to be a little bit different. It's okay to be feared by others. It's okay to have these questions about yourself.
I think there was a very big female population. I think there's a very big LGBT population who really captured from the book this feeling that there wasn't a judgment for people who had feelings for one another, who were of the same sex.
She really had an impact on my life. It was the first queer book, mainstream book, that I had read, and I remember reading it and being so surprised by it. As, I was like 15, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're, in love. And that was a very big deal to me, and I'm very glad to be a part of this show.
We're all in love with Anne Rice's stories and the questions that she asks in her books and through her characters. Why do you do this, Lestat?
Well, I like to do it. I enjoy it.
Well, I don't. It feels like holding this kind of very precious thing every day.
Anne passed away while we were shooting this.
When we found out that Anne Rice passed away, it was certainly something that all of us immediately felt. And the mood the next day feeling particularly heavy. I think especially for the city of New Orleans, she is an icon here, and this city has a lot to thank her for.
It's a great tragedy. It's a huge literary loss. I actually went down to the Garden District bookshop that day and went and spoke to people who knew her and, who often through her book openings and went through their old photographs of Anne Rice turning up to her book signings and book openings in a coffin in a bridal dress. And this was an extraordinary person who made a huge impact on a lot of people's lives.
I would have liked to have thanked her because when I read Interview with the Vampire, I felt understood on some level. I felt spoken to, and I felt comforted by how she writes.
On the morning of our next shoot day, Roland read a really beautiful passage from the beginning of the book and really spoke to the legacy that she has built.
I think we carry that legacy as a great responsibility and with a huge amount of respect.
She's the reason that we're here getting to tell this beautiful story.